Hey guys, I'm Dave and welcome to the Weird Kids Show. So this week we're going to start a new segment called the Creator's Corner. What is the Creator's Corner? Well, let me explain. When I'm on Facebook and scrolling through my timeline, I see all kinds of horror-related paintings and artwork and statues and props and everything. And all to where a lot of it is good. Every once in a while something will stop me in my tracks and I'll be like, wow, that is awesome. This gentleman here, Rob Cobasky, is one of those people. He does amazing work, and his sculptures are haunting and unsettling, to say the least. To me, they remind me something out of a Clive Barker novel. Now, I've only included a sliver of photos of Rob's work. The reason being is because Rob doesn't have a website right now, but he does share all of his work on Facebook. So down in the description, I'm going to provide you with a link to Rob's Facebook page where he has a tremendous amount of photos of his work. I encourage you, go check him out, okay? Anyways, I'm happy to see you guys here, and stick around because I'm going to say goodbye to you when the interview's done. All right, guys, this is Dave from the Weird Kids Show, and our new segment, we're kicking it off with a gentleman by the name of Rob Cobasky.
Hi, Dave.
From Arizona. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm very honored to chat with you today.
Yes, and this is you're the one that's the very first one in a new segment called the Creator's Corner.
Okay.
And it's dealing with talking with people on a creative level who, for the lack of a better term, create nightmares.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I have plenty of those.
and so it's great that we caught you at a day when you're in your workshop. I see a big lichen sitting behind you.
Yeah, I'm making a big werewolf. He's 8 feet long, and I'm just getting ready to make the molds of it. I've been sculpting this guy for about a week and a half now, and I'm using wet clay, and I'm gonna attempt to make a fiberglass mold of this werewolf that you see behind me. I think you can see the head and the mouth right now, and this is going to be for a film. And just this sculpture right here is going to be just for the ending of the film. I don't want to give too much away, but it gets hit by a car, and it's going to be breathing its dying breath, and it's going to get finished off on the side of the road so far.
Nice. Okay, so when you, first of all, it's going to be fun to try to separate that mold from that. You anticipate any struggle with that, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
I've got a plan. I've done so many. I kind of know what comes out and what doesn't come out. I don't know if you're familiar with undercuts, but basically an undercut is just a simple way of describing if you have a circle and you make a mold of the circle, you ain't going to get the circle out. So you got to make it in 2 halves. So you split the mold in half so you can get it out. And with that knowledge, I'm going to apply it to this, like on the toes and the fingers. And I've got one undercut under the right leg because he's laying on its side and there's a little tunnel underneath there. So I'm going to have to make it come in half so I can pull the casting out and start the painting and the claws and poking the hair and making the eyes. And I intend on putting a little bladder in its chest too, so it can be breathing its dying breath as it's going to get finished off. And I'm trying to figure out a way to make it as it's breathing. I've got some steam, its breath coming out of its nose and mouth somehow, some way. I've kind of got an idea, like with some kind of a humidifier or something like that. Even if I've got to dig a hole in the dirt and put this creature over that hole and plug in the humidifier and have the lungs going in and out so it can breathe its hot breath coming out, and just get the shot, call it the money shot.
Yeah. Well, they have those little tablets in the old days, the Lionel trains. They used to have these little tablets you would put in the stack, and it would heat up, and then it would get these puffs of smoke. I'm
Okay.
wondering if
That's a
something like
great
that
idea. I've never thought of that. I'll hit that hurdle when I get there. That's a good idea,
yeah.
Dave.
But let me ask you this now: is this going to be, when you pour this? Is it going to be in silicone, or are you going to use latex? What do you plan on doing?
I've used both, but I plan on using silicone because it's my favorite thing to use. You get I personally get the most depth, and I'm really, it's my favorite casting material. So I'm going to use silicone. I'm going to use a stuff called Dragon Skin 10 Medium is what I plan on using for this beast.
Nice. And then you foam fill the rest of it, like expanding foam, like.
Yeah. I'll use like a soft pillow expanding foam, maybe some rigid foam down by the feet and stuff like that. But now that I think, I'll probably use the soft pillow foam everywhere because I might want to have a toe twitch or a finger twitch or something via pulley cable, just so I can get the most realistic shot possible. This is going to be for my own film. I've worked on a lot of film sets, and I've learned a lot of things that you need to do and things you don't need to do, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to apply all that knowledge that I've learned now over the years to my own film. And it's going to be a short at first. And then, I'm going to talk to some professional people and seek advice on how to take the next step, et cetera.
So like a proof of concept type of film.
My aunt Terry, her name's Terry O in Phoenix, Arizona, and she's on a show on Channel 15 called Sonoran Living, and she's got some friends that she can introduce to me so that I can ask a few questions on how to go about this without spending too much of my own money. I'm willing to spend my own time and money to lock down a concept and stuff like that to get people to listen to me. Otherwise, you can't just show up with, I've got an idea, give me a bunch of money. You can't do that. So, I'm gonna take my story and see how far I can go with it. And if I hit a wall with it, then I had fun, and I'll try something else with some other creature, and I won't stop because it's in my blood. It's been in my blood since I was a little kid. I remember having little how to draw monsters as when I was a little kid, and I'd sit and draw while I'm eating my cereal before school, and I'd even draw the Lucky Charms character and Count Chocula. Remember that old cereal called Count Chocula?
Yeah.
I used to draw him on paper before school, and won art contests in grade school, and the winner would get a field trip to go paint Halloween signs on windows in the mall back when malls were doing great, before the internet and everybody's shipping everything now. But I got to go on a field trip when I was a little kid because I won the art contest, and I got to paint the monsters on windows at shopping malls and stuff.
No. And
then I got into high school. I did nothing but drawing, and then I got into high school back in 1979. I was a freshman, and I took all my elective classes were art, and my art teacher was a sculpture artist, and he turned me on to sculpture, and I never drew again. I've been sculpting ever since. I'm 55 now.
Nice. So, I mean, it couldn't have been just Count Chocula that, like, what? Go back to when you were a kid again, because I was gonna direct you in that way, anyways. What were your influences? What inspired you? What planted the seed? Like, what kind of movies were you watching? Is there comic books, or what planted the seed? Would you say?
Sinbad. Remember
Sinbad
movies?
The Ray Harryhausen production.
Jason and the Argonauts. Sinbad. Planet of the Apes. I remember being a kid, seeing the TVs for sale and seeing the Planet of the Apes show on the TVs and begging Mom to get home real fast so I could watch the Planet of the Apes and King Kong and Godzilla and old black and whites. That's kind of what I remember being really influenced. And then the old Riddell, I think they were the Riddell models, the old models of the Planet of the Apes and the Hunchback of Notre Dame and all the models that you used to snap together and glue with the glue and paint. And I remember Hunchback of Notre Dame was like,
the Aurora kits, the old Aurora and Adder. Yeah, Planet of the Apes with the Adder kits, polar, now they got like the polar lights and stuff like that. Yeah. Good stuff.
Totally different nowadays, I get, but we didn't have much back then. We just had the television, and I don't even think we had VCR back then or remotes for the television.
Those were only for the rich people, anyways, because they were super expensive when they came out. Yeah. So it sounds like we grew up the same way. Now, did you have there was a show called Creature Double Feature that aired in New England that came on every Saturday that showed double features of horror films, and that's how I got my fix. Was there like any kind of particular program? Like, did you have a horror host or something like that? Or
I remember the Twilight Zone, but they didn't have too many monsters, but it was just it was kind of like a scary show, and that's really all I remember. And the monsters that I remember watching on TV is probably King Kong and Godzilla back then, and then Jaws came out. I think Jaws is probably one of the scariest movies ever made to this day. I mean, it's old fashioned now, but that was the one. King Kong, Jaws. I'm old fashioned.
Yeah, that's cool. And do you remember what would be considered like your first project, like the first sculpt or painting or whatever? What was the first thing that you had done to where you realized you were at that crossroads where, okay, this is the way I want to go? Does anything come to mind? Or
that's a tough one. Like in high school when I first started sculpting, it was gorillas. Because of the muscles, and I'm really into the anatomy and stuff like that. But man, I can't remember. If that's a tough one, man. I like them all, but probably the first monster that I still do to this day and is my favorite is probably Frankenstein. He's just like the ultimate scary monster of monsters. And
he's my favorite too. And the thing about Frankenstein is you could do him 1,000 times and then still do him differently another 1,000 times, and it's just all down to the imagination. And
it is.
And that's one of the things I will tell you, Rob. That's one of the things that caught my eye. I've got a lot of Facebook friends, but just a lot of people that for some, I don't even know how we became friends. And so when I have my timeline, I can see all kinds of stuff and see people pass by that I don't even know who they are or even talk to. I was on Facebook on my timeline, and it was one of your Frankensteins that came up in my feed, and I just had to go, well, wait a minute here, Your work is, I don't know, is it 1/9 scale, 1/10 scale, the smaller ones that you're doing? What would you say?
My smaller ones are usually 1/6/6 scale. Anything smaller, it's pretty tough to do, when you get into the eyes and the fingers and the mouth, and that's, you got to get that right, because that's where all the that's what tells the story is the face and the hands. And
and I'll tell you, you've got, I almost want to, like, your imagination is almost Clive Barker-ish, if you will. It's there's some darkness in there, man. You create some nightmares, and I just love your work and
thanks, Dave.
The posturing on some of the characters, it tells a story just by looking at the piece. And now you seem to produce a lot too, and that's something else that's kind of baffled me, because it's like you're nonstop. Is this what you're doing for a living now? Like
I'm just now starting to break out in earning a pretty decent living I'd say probably last year, and then this year, believe it or not, with COVID, you'd never think, but probably the last 2 years now, I'm surpassing, you know, the revenue with my art, as you know, more so than my day job. My wife and I, we own a salon. I'm a hairstylist. And so now I've cut that down to just 3 days in the salon styling hair. And the rest of the time is doing what you see right behind me. And then I do my own art show every summer in a little city north of Phoenix in Arizona called Prescott. And there's a big rodeo, 4th of July and all that stuff. Huge crowd. And I usually show up with about 70 pieces that I make all year. And I show up there and I'll sell out, man. I'll sell 80% of all my work. And so then it takes me another year to build up that much of an inventory to make it worthwhile to do a show yet. And I've been doing my own shows because I'm finding it really hard to get into galleries because, like you said, of the darkness and you know, that evil dark vibe that I like to purge out of me, you know, because I just love the movement and the stances. And, you know, I feel like it's, you know, a lot of these people I hear all the time, you know, it's really cool stuff, but I can't have that in here. And I'm just, you know, I get frustrated. So I'm like, okay, well, forget that avenue. I'll do it myself then. And I just do my own show and I get juried into these shows. And sometimes I don't even get juried in. And I think it's because it might be too dark. But those are the shows that I've tried to get into around the holidays, you know, because they make great Christmas gifts. But some people, you know, some of the promoters, I guess, don't really want that sort of thing. So I'm only assuming, you know, I don't know the real reason, but
I would think they would make great Christmas gifts. I mean, I wouldn't complain if that lichen showed up underneath my my tree come Christmas.
Yeah, it's they make great gifts because every one I make is an original. I use super Sculpey clay a lot over a wire armature. I'll drill holes in tree trunks that I find outside, and I'll cut them 3 inches high on a round tree trunk. And then I'll drill some holes in there and poke my wire and foil over that. And then I start sculpting, you know, I'll block it out, get all the anatomy out, you know, first. And then I feel like sometimes I'm playing with the old G.I. Joe dolls and stuff like that back when I was a kid because I'm pushing them around and bending them and squatting, you know, and just I don't stop moving them around till I get that emotion that I'm looking for from it. And then I stop pushing the pose around and then I carefully detail every angle. And then I just recently started using paper mache for the clothing, and I'll go over to my dog Lacey over here and I cut little pieces of her dog hair off her tail and I use it for the hair.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, whatever works, you know.
Right.
And what are you using for these 1/6 scale figures as far as a medium?
That's like the Super Sculpey.
Super Sculpey, okay.
Yeah, okay. Super Sculpey clay, and then sometimes I'll use Super Sculpey firm. One is like a skin tone, and the other one's a firm gray.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll mix those two together and stop before it's completely blended, and I get these little dark gray undertones in it and stuff like that. And I use that and to enhance the paint job. And I'll use that to enhance the paint job, like I already said, because there's the super Sculpey clay is kind of translucent, and you know, so that gray chunk matter that's in there kind of shows through it. And I'll also use stuff called flocking powder also, and it's like, for lack of a better term, it's lint from yarn, and I use certain colors from yarn to mix in with the Sculpey, and that simulates all the little varicose veins and stuff underneath the skin.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you're not just, you're self-taught too, from what I understand too. You didn't get any formal training. You didn't go to any kind of art school or anything like that.
That's correct. The only art school I went to was back in 1987. I went to a graphic arts college to try and be a graphic artist, but I had hair down to here and I was still a punk back then. You know, I thought I knew it all and everything, and I couldn't ever get a job with big corporations and stuff like that, designing and, you know, logo designing and shopping bag designs and, you know, commercial graphic arts back when we did, what was it called? Paste up layout and all that, where we had to cut the letters and paste them out and snap a picture. And now it's all computer and everything.
Yeah.
But I lost my train of thought where I was going with that one. But
how about being that you were self-taught?
Yeah, self-taught. Now I just go to the University of YouTube, and I'll Google out certain things I want to know. And you know, I stumbled across a couple really cool artists that have a vibe that I like, and I don't want to mention names, but Tim Gore, he's my favorite probably. There's a couple others, Simon Lee. Those two probably are the top of my list. And in fact, one day, you know, I follow him on Instagram, and the guy's just like the Mario Andretti to me of painters and sculptors and stuff like that, of silicone and other maquettes. And I had this big project coming up in Salt Lake City, Utah, where it involved some African-American skin tones. I've never worked with any African-American skin tones before, so I just decided to reach out to this man, Tim Gore, that I follow, and he answered. I instant messaged him on Instagram, and he said, yeah, here's my phone number. Call me in 5 minutes. And, you know, I felt like I won the lottery, man. So, you know, I thanked him up and down and told him he was a hero of mine. I've got all of his DVDs and studied that man and everything. And I said, now you're not my hero anymore. You're my friend, because we're talking on the phone now. And he kind of laughed, and we both laughed. But yeah, he's a really good guy, and he's been in the industry, the film industry, for a long time. And he knows it all.
Yeah. Speaking of film, though, you're not just a conceptual artist. You're not just somebody who's making 1/6 scales and selling them at art shows. You're not just somebody who is making a lichen for a production. You're actually somebody who goes out on set and helps with the practical effects of the production. Is that true as well?
Yeah, that's true. I forget how I stumbled on it. It was probably, if I can remember right, it was a guy that started following me, and he asked if I'd be interested in doing some stuff for film, and I'm like, yeah. And so I can't lie. I faked it. And I kind of was asking questions on what I was going to have to do and everything. And I was told, and, I kind of applied what I already knew to what I had to do for that film. And then, I also seeked out other people on YouTube and stuff like that to see how they do things. And also, I learned how to do stuff by making mistakes, spilling things on the floor and picking it up and looking at it and stretching it and pulling things out of cups that I've used to mix things and then I apply them and just kind of just winged it, man. And then I learn and, I really wasn't that good, but I was good enough to get by. And, when I showed up on that first film, I think it was about 9 years ago, it was a Stephen King based short film called Sweet by the Horror Show. And this guy named Cecil Laird, or I think that's how you say his name. He reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested. And I just figured it out and made it work. And when I showed up, there were other people on set that films before more than I have, and they were saying things, you know, that they had never seen anything like that. Like I'm doing and everything. And I was kind of surprised. I'm really trying to keep my poker
You have
face.
to make, were you making like prosthetic appliances for that production, or did you make props? What was it that you had to do for that?
It was an appliance. It was a full face mask with teeth and everything. And then, the beating heart. And then it was a full face mask and hands, because he asked, you know, what do you think? How should we do it? And I'm like, well, I know I can do this and I know I can do that. So why don't we do, you know, a mask for the actor, and I'll make some fake hands, because the hands we needed, you know, couldn't really be made. I mean, they can be made, of course, but I just kind of suggested what I knew I'd be able to pull off, and I did it, and it worked for the film. And then I also kind of suggested maybe some other scenes that I knew I could pull off, and they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. Like, you know, the monster punches his fist into the guy's chest, a vampire's chest. I said, let's have him pull his heart out and have it beat a couple times in his hand before he throws it on the ground like it's trash. And, you know, we pulled it off, and we did it. And so now to this day, I'm still able to, you know, do creative input on certain sets that I'm on and stuff like that. I've been to Chicago to do a movie up there. I go to Salt Lake City a lot, and I work with trauma surgeons. There's a company called BD Medical, and they make and invent medical equipment. And one day, again, I stumbled on this gig. Somebody was posting they needed a monster maker, and I sent them that Frankenstein, probably that same Frankenstein you saw, and I blew the guy away with that. And it goes, yeah, well, we already filled the job, but I'll keep your information for the next gig. A year and a half goes by. He lights me up on Instagram or Instant Messenger, and asked me if I would be willing to go to Salt Lake to work with some trauma surgeons, because they invent medical equipment, and they're doing tutorials that go all over the world to show surgeons how to use their product. So drove up there and hit home runs every time. I've been up there 5 times now, and really appreciate the work that Salt Lake gives me. And now I'm doing creative input for those guys too as well. And most of the things that I suggest and do are just home runs. They love it. And so yeah, so that's kind of how it all is, you know, because I don't really know of any schools or anything that teach this stuff in Arizona. So you gotta just save up the money, buy the product, and fail a couple times. I've even failed so bad, I take my failures to the supply house. I get all my stuff at Reynolds Advanced Materials, and I take it there and ask them, pick their brains and ask them what I'm doing wrong. And I learn from the people that work there, buy more material, come home, and I get a little closer and a little closer. And then, you know, I decided to buy one of Tim Gore's DVDs on how to paint this silicone stuff, and studied the DVD and tried some more and more. And now I know what I feel like I know what I'm doing now. And so that's kind of like my story, and I'm sticking to it. that's the true story. That's it.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, Rob.
Thank you, Dave.
It sounds like you're living the dream now, you know, because I don't know. I think it's, what is it? The Dalai Lama says if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, or something.
It's true. It's true, man. I mean, I'm at the salon cutting hair, and I can't wait to get home and work another 7 hours till I drop and go to bed. Then I wake up and I'm sculpting before I go to the salon, and I go to the salon and I can't wait to get home. I don't know. It's really weird. You know, sometimes I do burn myself out, or I'll run into a snag on set, or making a film and it doesn't go the way I thought it was going to go, and I get frustrated, and, you know, I shut people out and stuff like that. But then, you know, I'll come back 4 or 5, 6 months later and put a little meat on the hook and throw it out there on the internet and troll around to find a new crew to work with that, you know, don't, you know, I don't do well with people that bring you down. And sometimes, you know, that they don't do what they say and stuff like that. It brings me down, and I just don't deal too well with that. So I have to kind of let some of those things and scenarios go and seek out new people that I'm really can work well with, you know, mutual respect, so to speak. And, you know, it's pretty rough, you know. I mean, I'm not going to lie, even when I do my art shows, you know, you got to put your thick skin on, man, because there's people that walk by and they say some pretty insulting things, you know, and
yeah, you're going to hell. You're probably going to hell.
I've had somebody come into my art booth and open a Bible and start reciting the Bible to me. And it's just like, I'm looking around, like, see if I'm on some kind of candid camera thing, you know, but some people are just really appalled by monster and dark art, you know, and it's fantasy, you know, it's art. It's just, you know, it's just a genre that I like, and, you know,
I know what you mean. I get the same thing. I get the same thing from people that every once in a while I'll post one of my pieces, and then you know, they'll have to say something like, "Oh, that's horrible, evil," and, you know, you just have to. There's nothing you can do about it. You just got to keep doing what you love and keep rolling with the punches, you know.
And that's what I'm learning, and I guess that's kind of what I would like to tell your audience is get ready for that. If you're into the monster dark art, you know, monster thing, it's not for everybody, but, you know, you got to do it for yourself, or you're not going to enjoy it. So just do what you want to do as an artist, and grow as an artist doing what you want to do, especially in the beginning, because, you know, if you're trying to please the world, what you're never going to do, you're going to give it up. You're going to get frustrated and stuff like that. And another thing I want to tell your audience is, if you're just beginning, learn how to crawl before you walk, and learn how to walk before you run. A lot of people try to run right out of the gate, and they get frustrated, and, you know, I'll help a lot of people and stuff like that, and I feel like a lot of the people that I try to help, they're trying to run right out of the gate, and I say, slow down, back up, just start small, start with a Mickey Mouse, or just start with a hand, or start with a frog, whatever you're into. If it's monsters, you got to get anatomy books and study anatomy, and learn how the bones connect and where the muscles connect on the bones. Study anatomy a million times. Get little statues. Get a Barbie doll or an action figure, and study the action figure and make your own sculptures. Copy somebody. You know, I don't, for lack of a better word, copying somebody means you're studying that person to get better. I've copied people before, and I'll post it on social media, and for some reason it gets around to the wrong person that I'm copying, and that person ripped my head off over social media, and it really upset me. And I destroyed the sculpture. But I was just studying the guy, trying to become as good as he was. And so, you know, you're not copying unless you copy that person and you go out and try to sell it and say it's
as your own.
That's copying. But, you know,
you'd think otherwise it would be a flattering that somebody, you know, respected your work enough that they wanted to be as good as, or capture some of the good elements of what they do. You know, you'd think that, but now that's why I like talking. I'm really, you're really open to us, Rob. I appreciate that, because I've had conversation with people like Steve Johnson, who invented Slimer from Ghostbusters, and he did all the special effects for the Abyss and all that, and he'll say that, you know, some of these guys, Ed Edmonds from Distortions Unlimited, there's people that have minds, screw you, and then there's people that are genuinely want to help others. You know, they genuinely want to share their what they do, you know.
And I'm always the first one to help and share, especially the ones that light me up every time I post something on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. They'll, instant direct message me and ask me for advice. I have no problem sharing anything that I know with them and coaching them along and encouraging them and stuff like that. Yeah, I've never had any problems doing that. In fact, I've even tried to get into some art classes in the local high schools and talk to the art teacher to see if I can get in and inspire, some kids to get into sculpture and try the things that I'm doing, because it's so much fun. They're pushing a pencil isn't for everybody, or there's just there's something for everybody. And if it's art, then start young and you'll be great when you get older. So
Yeah.
I'll always share anything that I know, and if somebody knows more than I do, I'll try and learn from them. It's just I've always been like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's go back for a second here, because you talked a bit about film, and then you also addressed some of the younger generation that are interested in getting, because I wanted to touch on the film, because you mentioned about being frustrated and having situations on set. I'm fortunate enough, I've worked on quite a few film sets myself. I started off as a filmmaker and have my own productions, and I've worked both in front of as well as behind the camera. To people that don't know anything about filmmaking, it seems very glamorous. Like, that there's all kinds of magic happening, and, but the reality of the matter, and I think you can agree with me, that when you're on a film set, it's like watching paint dry.
Yes, it's hurry up and wait.
Yeah, yep. You spend a tremendous amount of time standing around waiting for the shot to get set up, waiting for this, waiting for that, waiting for that, waiting. And then
they want it right now and hurry.
Yeah.
Some are like that. And then, I've been on film sets where, I've been promised a lot. I've had 3 and 4 2.5, 3-hour meetings at the kitchen table with directors talking about how they wanted this and how they wanted that. And I've worked 180 to 200 hours making things for the film, and the film never gets finished.
Yeah.
Or, they're the checks in the mail story, or, it's just, there's going to be a lot of frustrations. And it's not every film crew is going to work for you, and you just got to try and find the crews that lift you up instead of pushing you off to the side like you're a piece of meat. But it's like watching paint dry. But then to get to see what you've made on the big screen, and that's makes it all worth it, and then to maybe make a little bit of money, and stuff like that kind of makes it all worth it. It definitely has its ups and downs, and I don't know it all. I still need to learn a lot of things, but I just suggest what I know, and it usually works.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Rob. We're getting close here. Do you have a website that people can go to if they wanted to buy one of your sculptures? How could they do that? How could they reach out to you if they wanted to buy something from you?
I used to have a website, and it didn't do anything for me, but cost me money. Nobody bought anything from it, so I scrapped that. And all I do is Facebook and Instagram now under my name.
Okay.
Rob Cobasky. It's ROBCOBASKY. That's how you spell my name. And I encourage people to just reach out through me through the messenger, or there's a messenger on Instagram and Facebook both. And I get asked that a lot. Maybe now that I've grown a little bit and, feel like I've gotten a little better. Maybe a website might be good for me now. But I don't have a website. I just do the social media thing and ask people to reach out to me through there. Because a lot of times too, some things that I make, I just can't ship because, speaking from experience, I've shipped all over the world: Australia, Hong Kong, India, all over the United States. And sometimes the Super Sculpey is a little bit on the fragile side, and the post office really doesn't care. I've found sometimes they throw the boxes around and it shows up with a crack or it's broken here and there. So I'm having trouble just keeping up with my own live art show where people buy it and I put it in a box and they walk away with it. But I'll still, whenever I feel like something is able to be shipped, I'll always ship it. I do, maybe 1.5 out of every 10 I ship will have a little mishap. And I'll always try to be fair and help them either fix it or, we will file a complaint with the post office and see if we can get the cost of, I'll insure it, see if we can get stuff like that. That's really all I can do.
Yeah. And not to mention it's the post office is charging. It's ridiculous what they're charging these days to ship stuff. It's unbelievable how much it costs now to send a package.
Yeah. People are like, what? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've shipped so much, kind of can get within $15-20 on what the shipping is going to be. And some people are like, no, forget it then.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that can be a deal breaker. The people look at your work and they're like, because I deal with the same thing, they look at your work and they like it and they think the price is fair, but then you tell them how much it's going to be on top of that for shipping. And it's like, yeah, it's just getting too much for me now, and that could be a deal breaker. So.
Yeah. And, so that's kind of why, I'm really not into the websites and the shipping and all that stuff because of the, I'm really into the details, and some of the teeth and the fingernails are so tiny and everything. Sometimes they just don't make it through shipping. So, I'm kind of going down a different avenue and doing it that way the best I can.
Yeah. Unless you figure out a way to cast them on like a smooth on and then resin pour them, and that way you can keep, hopefully be able to keep your original and just sell, I guess, garage kits is what they used to call them, if they wanted to paint them or something like that,
Yeah, they call them resin kits. I think there's a lot of groups out there that they'll make resin kits like we used to buy the models back in the early 70s, but they're making they cut them up and make the separate mold, and then they sell the kit and people will glue them together, fix the seams and paint them. And that's kind of the thing. But I like doing the originals. I don't like making molds. I just don't like it. And another thing is it burns me out is when after you get the mold done, now you're making the same thing over and over. And I want to make something new, and I want to learn, and I want to do this pose and that pose. And it's probably, I'm going to have to change, if I want to take it up into the next level of making money doing it. I know I'm going to have to change. I'm going to have to start molding this up in casting and resin, and I will, even if I've got to hire some help to make my molds and do my castings. I'll hit that hurdle someday. I'm sure it will.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if you could pull off, you pull off the mold on that lichen behind you, I know shipping would be astronomical, but I'm sure there would be a bunch of people out there that would be willing to hand over the dosh for it.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting to get to where I'm punching in the hair. I've got plans on some of my clients are horse lovers, and they have horses, and they'll bring me in the trimmings from the mane and the tail. And so I've got a lot of hair that I'm going to be using on this bad boy.
You're going to hand punch the hairs and stuff?
Yeah, you got to hand punch every single hair. It takes, that's probably going to be the longest part about this whole monster, is punching the hair in. But man, it's all in the details. I was watching a car show, and Chip Foose, he's a famous car builder, and I'll never forget, he said on television, it's all in the details. And I totally agree. Some people are like, they're not going to see that. And I'm like, no way, man. Your eye goes right to it. You know, I respectfully disagree. So any little detail you can add is just one more notch on the ladder. Higher you go in skill and you know, the awe you get from people that see your stuff. I mean, like for example, the teeth, the mouth in this guy. I don't know if you can see the mouth, but I cast the jaws so that the jaws can open and close, so I can have one more element of realism to it. I want to have the eyes look left and right, maybe an ear twitch or a toe twitch. Those little details are going to take forever to figure out and do, but it's just one more notch of realism that I'll get when I finally get to shooting this thing for my film. And so that goes with any of the little 1/6 scale maquette sculptures that your audience is going to maybe get into doing. And anytime you can add a really detailed fingernail or a tooth or hair or wrinkles in the clothing or the shoelaces, or any little detail, belt buckles, chains, string, rope, bags hanging off the belt, any little detail is just where it's at for me. I love
supplements. Yeah, supplements the piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, Rob.
Thanks, Dave.
You know, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Dave. I'm very honored. I'm very honored.
Yeah, no, I'm honored, and I want to you know, I want to introduce you to my followers, and hopefully get some more traffic your way, because you do some amazing work, and I can't wait to. I'd like to be able to check back in on you once you get the hair almost punched in on this whole.
Yeah.
And that would be fun too. We could share that with everybody if you're interested.
Oh yeah.
Let's do that.
I love sharing the progress. Sometimes I feel like I post too much, but I know there's lots of people out there that appreciate the steps.
Oh yeah.
And they see each step and how it goes. You know, sometimes I'll see my follower numbers go down a little bit when I'm posting too much of one thing, but I don't, you know, it doesn't really bother me, because I know there's 10 more out there that appreciate it and love it and learn from it. Because that's how I learn from it, is when the people that I love to follow, the more they post, the more the little things I pick up. I'll even look in the background on their work tables when they're posting from their work to see what tools, what materials they're using, what kind of table they're working, the lighting. You know, I'm just sponging all that stuff off and seeing if maybe I can apply it to my works. And for all of your followers out there, if you decide you ever need to ask a question or you want to follow me and everything, I would be honored to answer any questions, or maybe lead you to the person who could, or anything of help for your followers. I'm all down for doing that. I would be honored. It means a lot to me when people ask me something. It makes me feel really good, like I'm a big kid now.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying, you know.
Yeah.
It's the creative, the creative process. It's nice when you can, help or encourage somebody, because, there are a lot of people that would love to do what you do, but they're their worst enemy. They're holding themselves back,
Exactly. And that's all it is. It's yourself, I personally, I'm sculpting every day. I go camping. I bring my clay. Now, if I'm doing something for a day or two and I can't, there'll be, you know, I'll go a week sometimes if I'm on a vacation or something like that, but I'll still bring a little clay and I'll doodle here and there, but I'm sculpting every day. And it's like weightlifting. You go to the gym every day. You're gonna see gains every now and then. But if you can't sculpt every day to your audience, that's okay. Sculpt on the weekends or sculpt at night, you know, when you're on the couch watching TV, you know, just sculpt a hand, you know, sculpt 10 hands. And also, I'll encourage your audience to tackle and sculpt whatever intimidates them the most about what they want to do. Tackle that part of the anatomy and overcome that and do it in pieces. Do a right leg 10 times, do a left leg 10 times, do a skull. And then pretty soon you'll start piecing all these things together, and then you'll push them and pull them around and everything. And it's going to make you smile. And you know, it's what it does for me. So also, you know, to your audience, don't be too hard on yourself. Just, you know, like I said, learn to crawl before you walk, then learn how to walk. And, you know, you're not just going to be able to get up and run right away. And if you are able, then great. You know,
yeah.
I mean, you know, it takes a little bit of talent. I mean, there are people that can't dance, you know, but they're out there on the dance floor dancing and trying anyway. I commend that. Just don't give up. But there are also people out there that are really good right out of the gate, and that's good. I personally was kind of like that. I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty good right out of the gate, I felt like, and you know, so I just kind of ran with that. But you know, don't give up. Just keep going. It's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we'll end on that positive note.
Okay.
Rob, I really appreciate it, sir. And
you're very welcome, Dave.
Would love to check back with you. And
yeah, please do.
Thank you for being the very first in the Creators Corner segment that we're starting.
I'm honored. I'm very honored.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And you have a good day.
All right, you too, Dave. I'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
Okay, fine.
I think you guys got a little taste of what this guy can do. If you liked what you saw in the interview, you're going to love what he has on his Facebook page. The guy is super talented, creative. I would love to be sitting in the studio and just be a fly on the wall and watch him do his work, you know. Very inspiring. And that's what this whole segment of the Creators Corner is meant to do, and that's to inspire. So I appreciate you guys, and until next time, peace.